Well, this is the third book I've written on the gambling industry. And in 1993, when my first book came out, at that time, lotteries were the primary form of gambling in the United States. And that book was about how states were adopting lotteries. And now there are 42 states with lotteries. Then 8 years later, I did a book on the government transformation of the gambling industry, where government then was allowing much more casino gambling. And how states were allowing this to increase gambling revenue in general. And this book, it's called The Gambling Debate, is much more about now how the various forms of gambling are competing with each other and how states are competing with each other for gambling revenue, and how that's led to the expansion of gambling, and some debate about what's the appropriate role of the state in gambling and what's society's role in gambling. I think people who are it's interesting when I teach the strategy and policy course. I think business school students are very, very interested in it. It's an interesting industry. I think people who are interested in public policy, so political science students would be interested in it. I think people in general, it's a very interesting topic and controversial about why gambling why has it been accepted so much? And so there's ethical problems in it. There's political problems, economic and social. So it covers almost every stream of people's interest. One of the with policymakers, it's interesting. I think one of the things that this book will bring to their attention is that for every time they institute a new form of gambling, there are going to be costs. You're either going to cannibalize existing forms of gambling, you might cannibalize existing forms of business, and clearly other states are going to retaliate against you. So for instance, right now, certainly the debate in Massachusetts is about should we reclaim casino revenue from Connecticut and Rhode Island? And for most legislators, the first inclination is, of course, we should reclaim that. But then you have to ask themselves, there is a social cost here. When you provide additional gambling, there will be addiction costs. So, but at the same time, the issue for policymakers is revenue, addiction, and social cost. Well, the key issues in this book are very much about this. Let's look at all the existing forms of gambling and what you think you're doing with them. Clearly the first form of gambling that was ever printed in this country was horse racing and pari-mutuel betting. It is a dying industry right now. And so for policymakers right now, do you try to subsidize that industry by putting slot machines in the racetracks, or do you let that industry die? It's an interesting thing for policymakers. Lotteries are basically, right now, they are all slightly decreasing or just slightly just holding their own. So as a source of revenue, the lottery now becoming, what do you do with the lottery? So you have Treasurer Cahill in Massachusetts actually proposing to privatize the lottery, sell it off, get the revenue from it, and then tax it the way you want, instead of be a more continuous stream of revenue. That's not just isolated to Massachusetts. Indiana, Illinois, Pennsylvania, lots of states have talked about privatizing their lotteries. Interesting question for the next book. Then casino gambling is much more complicated, because there you're talking about, you have three forms of it. You have slot machines in the racetracks, you have Native American casinos, and then you have private casinos. Right now, 27 states have some form of casino gambling, or one of those three. And again, casino gambling, is it for revenue, or do you want to use it for economic development? Clearly, Governor Patrick, in the proposal that he did 2 years ago, he was trying to say casino gambling should be some form of economic development. Most people now, clearly Massachusetts right now, the debate's just putting slot machines in the racetracks, and we want the revenue. The revenue is becoming all important. So it's an interesting thing. I mean, with Native Americans, it's definitely revenue. It's also economic development for them. And then there's the competitions between the states to reclaim that revenue. So, and the ethics behind that, I think, is one of the things that would ask for all of us, what should be the role of the state and government and in the casino and gambling industries. I think it's kind of curious that in the United States, the lotteries are owned by the states and casinos, for the most part, are private. If we go to our Canadian cousins up north, the casinos are owned by the provincial governments and the lotteries are run by private individuals. We might have a debate in this country about what's the appropriate role of government in this, but clearly government's the regulator, and clearly government allows you to enter this industry. So you can't enter this industry unless the government allows you to. So there's some of the other interesting ethical and political questions you need to ask. Well, one of the questions that this book does address is the whole role of internet gambling and what's the appropriate role of that, because clearly the states are threatened. If you allow internet gambling, in what ways will it affect both the lottery and casino gambling? It's those casinos that are more regional, such as the riverboats in the Middle West, or even I would say the Rhode Island casino, the racinos in Rhode Island. They are threatened by internet gambling because the person who goes to those the substitute product for them might be internet gambling. Whereas if you have national casinos like in Las Vegas and Atlantic City, or even Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun, they're much less threatened. And in fact, you can see where those firms, the big casino firms such as MGM and Harrah's and Sands, they want internet gambling now, and they're willing to put their names on the sites to guarantee the bettors that they'll back up, that they'll regulate this well. And of course, then even with the states, Nevada, surprisingly enough, is all for internet gambling, and Nevada has already set up a system that if internet gambling gets permitted, they will immediately learn how to regulate it. And other states such as New Jersey and Delaware that have big stakes in casino gambling, they're against it. So it's a rather curious kind of split between casino operators and states about what to do with internet gambling. Clearly, by the way, also Congressman Barney Frank is actually in favor of it, and so he wants to lift the restrictions. And so, again, but the question there is, how do you deal with the addiction problem when somebody's addicted to internet gambling, and even more, how do you deal with the age limit? Right now, that would be there might be some way of doing it, but that's going to be an interesting problem to deal with. And I think the final issue that this book kind of addresses that's brand new than the other two books never even got near was the whole thing about sports gambling. It is by far the form of gambling that is probably the most lucrative form of gambling. It is the one form of gambling we have left that's basically illegal over the country. The only place you can legally spend on sports gambling right now is Nevada. And one of the arguments is, why not? It was curious yesterday. Delaware voted by one vote in their state senate, voted down sports gambling in their slot machine and racetracks. And the reason why was that they thought it was going to take way too much away from the current slot machines and everything. So again, it's a cannibalization issue, but there would be an incredible amount of money involved if states permitted sports gambling. I think the pro leagues are dead set against it. The NCAA is dead set against it. So there would be some really powerful opponents. I also think for young males, it would be the crack cocaine of gambling. The amount of addiction that could come out with sports gambling would be tremendous. So how the states would regulate that, how they would monitor the addicted part of sports gambling would be difficult. But there's no doubt about that. Delaware almost did it in search of revenue and trying to protect their revenue because now Pennsylvania allows slot machines in New Jersey. So it's rather interesting how states now are thinking about permitting type of gambling they would have never permitted before. But now in search of revenue, they're thinking about it.